Yeah, we
Yes.
can see.
So let's do one thing. First, let's try to understand, like, I think there are multiple requirements, which let me just note it down once. So people said, I think, API gateway, right? Then there was AWS Glue, right? Then there was SageMaker. Then there was a requirement of REST API. Okay. I think these four and Docker is one more. Docker, I think we can cover now, but yeah, we'll have to create more content on this. We can come back there. No problem.
Ninad, so we have
Yeah.
all the information for Snowflake. So can you include Databricks as well, like little bit of detail of how
Yes.
you? Okay.
We are in work in progress. So we have a few projects on Databricks. We are just starting Spark first. Because before even going to Databricks, I mean, we can create projects and upload, but understanding Spark is very important.
Okay.
So we are bringing in Spark. I think it will be hardly 2 weeks from now that we will have Spark launched. And we are creating a plan with Snowflake, Spark, AWS ER. I think, yeah, the detailed one, I can give you more details in next group call.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So today we can maybe stick to AWS as well. But yeah, it's work in progress. Cool. Okay, guys. Now, I have a requirement. Okay. There is a business requirement who has data into CRM. We have multiple CRMs. Okay. CRM1, CRM2. Okay. And let's see. So this holds all the data related to leads, sales, right? This is also on the similar page. Leads, sales, IP addresses as well, let's say. Okay. So we have two different CRMs as of now. Then I have, so we guys schedule call with Calendly, right? Let's say we have Calendly data as well. Now let's take an example of all you students. Okay. I think I had. Okay, I think I'll take that later. No problem. So yeah, what I want to do is there's a user, okay, who comes to a company and then is getting registered into CRM. Okay, I'm explaining the business problem first. Right? So he comes into CRM. Yeah, so he comes into CRM. His data is stored. Now there might be multiple calls and all those things with salespeople when you're buying a Snowflake account for your company or something like that. We can consider those kind of problem statements, or we can consider Data Engineering Academy as a uh, data warehouse as well. Okay, so if you remember, guys, you came in as lead, then a closer called you, right? So Calendly links were sent and all those details were captured. So now what we want to do is you want to capture all the leads and sales, and you want to capture all the Calendly events done by a user as well. Okay, we want to store it into data warehouse or data lake. I would say this is my data lake, not a data warehouse. First question to the crowd. Will I call it data warehouse or data lake? If data warehouse, why? If data lake, then why?
Typically, it would be a data lake if there were like unstructured data, etc., because that can handle any type of data. But I guess here in question, it's primarily structured data where we can store in data warehouse without data lake.
True. Okay. Who else wanna try? You to try.
Database is basically a structured data where you have rows and columns, and user can access from the database. And the data lakes is basically is similar to data warehouse, but it has a non-structured data, semi-structured or non-structured data, which we stored in the data lake. It's just not been refined or financed.
Again, yeah, same unstructured. Okay, cool.
Or
What
raw
else,
data,
Paul?
like raw data.
Okay, cool. What else, guys? What do you think? Someone else wants to look.
Data lake is like unprocessed data, and
Same,
in
raw
data
data,
warehouse,
unstructured data, everything is same.
yeah, and in data warehouse is mostly like the processed one.
No, so what I mean is, you guys need to design. We as a team, we need to design. Okay, so this is our sources. Whether we should design a data warehouse or a data lake. If data lake, why data lake? And if data warehouse, why data warehouse? That is the
So
question.
first we like save as a like a data lake. We like move all the data in a data lake. After that, according to the like our requirement and according to our like analysis or any others like customer requirement or business requirement, then we can move to data warehouse after transformation if it requires. Like
First thing is, why are we then planning? Let's say we design a data lake now. Okay, I'll give you guys a hint. We are gonna design a data lake. Now, why would I design a data lake? So this is the source, this is the target. If you guys can think, there's a hint over here. So I think first part is right. Azad, when he said we're gonna bring in whole data, but why data lake?
Only thing we can utilize the data lake when there is a need for it. If from the user perspective, you don't want to use the data lake to be stored raw data into the data lake, we can also move directly to the database, because we can move it to the staging table, and from there we can extract the information which is required by the business.
Okay, just to be clear, data lake is also at the end of the day database only. Okay.
Yeah.
So a typical use case, at least that I'm aware of, is data lake you would have where there will be like, let's say you can do like machine learning department and analytics department could access the entirety of data and do analytics on that, and then that is one part. But then for BI and visualization, etc., it will be put into a data warehouse, which may be a Power BI, something we'll consume to show visual details.
Got it. Got it. Okay. I think great answers.
The reason, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
I was going to say the reason I use a data lake is because there's multiple steps in the journey of the lead. So within those steps, there can be different amounts of data that can be brought in that you can't plan a relational schema for. So that's why we use a data lake.
Got it. Great answers, guys. You know what I would start? I would start with always source. Everyone went and jumped into data lake and this side of it. Okay. The basic definition of data lake is when first thing you have multiple sources, guys. That's why you're designing a data lake. When a data is coming from n number of sources, that's when you need a lake. Understand? Data lake. Lake is where you have multiple sources. Here, as of now, I have 3 sources, but along with this, I have 6. Total, I have 6 sources for Data Engineering Academy data lake. Okay, I'll show it in real example as well. But as of now, I'm giving example of 3 different sources. Okay. Now, if you think, I told you we should always start from source. I would check CRM. Are we gonna get the data in an unstructured way, structured way? When we say Calendly, when we say CRM, we are gonna use REST APIs, guys. Okay, so we're gonna hit APIs. So the question should be actually towards me. You will need to ask interviewer or someone, whatever it is, that your source, whether it is an RDBMS, whether it is we are hitting REST APIs, or whether they are pushing this data into AWS S3. What is that? Right? Then comes the second is format. That's when you come to unstructured, raw, ingestion, and all those things. First, understand source. Always understand source. Okay. So let's say I'm using close CRM. This is one of the CRM. You don't need to worry about what CRM is. We are going to use REST API. Okay. Then I'm going to use Calendly's API. Okay. This is another source. And then I'm going to use Hyro's API. These are all the REST APIs where we are going to ingest the data from. Okay. Now, let's go back to our design. So we have multiple sources. We are gonna get API data. API data is JSON format every time. Okay, whenever we hit these APIs, whenever we are gonna hit these APIs. So let's say for now this is close, right? Close CRM. This is IO CRM, and this is Calendly. Whenever we're gonna hit these APIs, we are gonna get JSON data. Okay, so sorry, we're gonna get JSON data. So these are the REST APIs. Now, what does REST API means? So there is some data which is sitting into this CRM, and then which is sitting into Calendly. Like whenever you guys schedule a call with any SME, CSM, or sales cross, closer call, everything is gonna be stored into Calendly. Okay, so just to show you guys an example of REST API. Not gonna go into detail of. It's very easy, guys. You just hit a request. So what we do is actually, let's say I'm gonna do Calendly API. Okay, so okay. So what I'm gonna do is, we'll come to the webhook concept later. Okay, let's first understand what is REST API. API is an endpoint. So let's say I wanna get all the Calendly calls scheduled. Availability, activity log, scheduled events. Okay. So what you get is you get this kind of link. Okay. You can hit this link and you can understand what all calls were scheduled under Data Engineer Academy's Calendly hub. Okay. So if I'm logging into Data Engineer Academy's Calendly, to be an example, thousands of calls might be scheduled, right? Or not thousands, there are hundreds of thousands of calls. So let me go here. So if I go to analytics, example, in last 30 days, 4.5 thousand events were completed and 5.6 thousand events were created. Okay. Now, if I had to get this data into my data lake, how would I get it? Any guesses, guys? Let's say I want to understand in last 30 days, what were those events which were created, what were the events that were completed, and what were the events that were rescheduled and cancelled. Can anyone give me an idea how can we do that?
I'm just guessing, but you gotta reference the API your URI path, and then somehow get access, connect to the JSON file for
Exactly.
these.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah,
Who
we
else?
can we can check that what kind of file being generated by the Calendly, right? It's a
Right.
text file. It is JSON file or XML file. What kind of file it is, and
Right.
then we can see. Then we can see that how we can process that file using some APIs, or how we can process it. If it's simple text file, we can move it using some routines, some tools, ETL tools. Depends on that. The file format is,
Right.
I think, important to understand what is it generating.
Right. So always remember, when you're hitting API, it's gonna be JSON, nothing else.
Okay.
It's always going to be JSON. No text or nothing is created using APIs. Okay.
Can it be Parquet?
No, JSON.
Okay.
Right. It can be XML sometimes, but it's 99.99% JSON. So what API is, you're hitting their API and getting the data from their database as an output of JSON. Okay. I'll show you an example here.
Mhm.
Let's say I want to get all the scheduled events in my organization. So my organization is Data Engineering Academy, right? That's what you guys might think. Okay. Now, always remember, you need to understand this part, that whenever you go to their documentation, the first thing you need to see is what you need to get. Okay. So let's say our requirement was, we want to get created events, completed events, rescheduled events, and cancelled events. These are 4 requirements we want to get from Calendly, let's say. Okay. So created events is nothing but scheduled events for us. So it's not written somewhere, but we might have to use some logic over there. Okay. So now if I had to get the scheduled events, you see here, we need to pass organization, which is requires admin or owner privilege. We need to pass user, we need to pass group. We scroll down, we will get some query parameters. Okay. Query parameters are nothing but filters. So whenever we are hitting scheduled events, in an organization, we have 100 employees. Everyone is using Calendly. Do we want to get everyone's scheduled event, or do we want to get one specific invitee's calendar events? Do we want to just get from 1st of January, 1st of February? Do we want to get one specific organization? Does it make sense, guys? What query parameters is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So this is very
the parameters that go to the end of the URI path.
yes, it will. I'll show you how does it
Oh.
work. So now to show you a practical example, these are the parameters which are accepted by this API link: count, group, invitee email, max start time, min start time, organization, sort, and all these things. Okay. I won't pass anything. Let me just give my token and send API request. I got a bad request. And you see here, at least one of the organization, group, or user must be filled. So what it is saying, in filter, we should either have a group, we should either have an organization, or we should either have a user. So you can get a scheduled event of Data Engineer Academy, or you can get a scheduled event for Ninad, or you can get a scheduled event for Ninad who belongs to a group of subject matter expert. One of them is required. Okay. So this is how you understand REST APIs. You need to test it. Okay. Example. Let's take, I want to do it for, where is my organization? Yeah, let me do it for rather than doing it for organization, I'll do it for myself. So what I did is, in order to get my URI, I ran another API which gives me user/me. And then it is going to give me my URI. Okay. So I'm going to paste this. So I'll just hit send API request. You see now all the events which were scheduled with me are going to come here. Okay, you see
In
here
the
from
user field, you did not provide a user name, but you gave like a long URL.
yes, correct. Yes, sorry, I missed
What
it. So
does
let's
that
say I give
mean?
Nina. Okay,
Yeah.
this is my username. Okay, you get invalid user. Okay, this is what I tried. Sorry, I missed one. So first of all, what you do is you give your name. That's what you will try, right? But you cannot do that. You cannot pass username. So what I did is I did some ChatGPT and Googling. But what needs to be passed in user? Now this is a tricky game of every API. Every API might not have same requirement. Okay, Calendly has it. Closely won't have. Kairos won't have it. Kairos might something else. Okay. Now for every REST API you need to play it for at least 1 or 2 days so that you can understand what is user. So here user means, now what you can do is on the left side, you can go to introduction and start always from introduction, how to create APIs and all. And then go to examples. So if we go to examples, I go to demo projects, or not event availability. You need to understand user, right? So what I would do is Calendly API users. Okay, get user get. I got it here.
Yeah.
Now what I would do is, so I need to get a user's UUID. You see that? So this helped me understand that we shouldn't pass my name directly. I need to pass user's UUID here. Make sense?
Yeah.
Now, in order to get that UUID, I'll have to go to some other API and get my UUID. Correct? So what I did is, if you see my code over here, I went to users and I gave /me because I am running this code, right? Now, how will it understand I am running? Token which was created, that was created by me. So the token is associated to me. And that's how this API understood that it was me, Ninad, and that's why it gave my results over here. This is just Calendly specific, guys. But this is how you play with REST APIs. So what you guys can do is, it will be an assignment for you. Create a Typeform account. I think it's free for 7 to 14 days. I don't remember. But there might be some competitor as well. Create a Typeform account. Create a random new Typeform. Okay. And try to hit Typeforms API. If you guys have any questions, you can ping in your specific Slack channels and I would be happy to answer. Just tag me. You will see Typeform developer platform, create API, response API. So we want responses. So we can just go here, learn more. So this would be like an assignment for you guys. Whoever wants to learn REST API, what you can go is you can go to your Visual Studio, Anaconda, Google Colab, anything, and you can run your Python script and try understanding this stuff. So create a Typeform account, create a normal form. So what is Typeform? It is like a Google form. So example, whenever I'm sending a form, I get responses. Now I can hit an API and get the responses into APIs as well. Okay. Now that's what I would like you guys to test out. This would be your homework. Okay. Any questions until here? Cool. Nothing else. I'm not gonna like detail in REST APIs now. You guys can do that assignment in Typeform. Once we have scheduled events and all those things using this one, let me take my organization. So I give my UUID. I send API request. Now I got all these requests. So if you go just one thing in API. So I have been in company like let's say for 3 years now. Okay, from start. There might be thousands of events which are scheduled. Do you guys think I will get all the scheduled calls in one request? What do you guys think? Anyone?
It may be like the top and what are the most recent calls with I don't know how much
Okay.
counted not.
Yep. Good. Good guess. That can be possible. But
And what about the query parameters that we gave? According to that, are we gonna get the result?
yes. So we gave my user UUID. Based on that, we got this result. Okay. Now, like I said, there is a limit. Every API request can send 100 to 1000 output JSONs. It cannot send more than that. This is typically industry standard, 100 to 1000. You cannot get more than 100 to 1000 requests as an output. So what do I mean by that? If I go into this collection, if you see this is one request output, this is second request output, this is third. Okay. Let's say if I have 5000 Calendly calls scheduled, in first request I get 100 to 200. How can I get the rest of them? Any idea?
Pagination.
Great. Great. I think Perkins did it, so that's why. But let me get you guys to pagination. Okay, that's what your next page token is. Okay, pagination can be named out differently. So what pagination means is, what does pagination means? Let's say there is more data whenever you are hitting an API. So at the end, you will see something like pagination. There you will see something like next page, and you will say next page token as well. So this is the link of next page. So what you need to do is you need to write a while loop until and unless you don't get a null over here. You keep on hitting that while loop and you keep on iterating over this. Okay. Now a classic example of that, I'll just quickly show you guys. Okay, here it is. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get all the event types for this organization from 1st January 2025. So this is handling the pagination. So what I'm doing is I have defined a URL. This is my URL. Okay. Sorry. Yes. So while URL, I'm gonna hit this URL. I'm gonna get the response. So I'm going to hit this URL. I'm passing these parameters over here. I'm getting the results. I'm converting into JSON. I'm storing it somewhere. Okay. Then I'm going into URL.get pagination. I'm checking next page. Okay. So this is what I'm checking, next page. If I get this next page, I'm going to replace this URL with whatever is available over here. Okay. Then in next page, I'm gonna get next 100 to 200 results. So here I'm just getting 20, right? I can replace this count actually. So if I go back to my so if I go here, we can change the count over here. We can change the count over 100 as well. Okay, let's say I'll give 1000 to just show you guys. So must be less than or equal to 100, right? So as of now, for Calendly, we can get only 1000 requests per token. Sorry, 1000 results per request. So I got 100. Okay, I'm gonna show you now how does 100 look like. So you see now, so before we had only 755 lines. Now we have 3800. Still I have a next page. So this is a sample code, very easy. We write a while loop and we keep on looping until we don't get a null over here. Once you get a null, it's gonna come and break. Okay, because when you get a null and when you hit to null, you're gonna get the error. And that's when I'm gonna break this cycle. And that time you have stored all the pagination results. Again, you can try it in your type form as well. One more assignment. Any questions, guys, until here?
Nina, I have a question. So you have written a Python code in Collab, right? Instead of that, can we just give the invoke URL in Postman and get that JSON format and test it however you want? Can we do that?
You can, no problem.
Instead of skipping this Python, getting the Python code, can we just give the
For
URL?
pagination, no. For pagination, no. You cannot do that.
Yes, okay. But can we still get, at least for a testing purpose, can we use the Postman?
Yes, you can. But I would suggest Python. Why? Coming back to the original task. Your task is to design a system where you're gonna ingest the data. Okay. I am fine with Postman, to be very honest. But me as a single, whatever in my career I have tried, I tried Python because at the end of the day, I need to design a system where I'm going to ingest the data from here and I need to put it in, as of now, I'm considering Snowflake. Okay. I need to load the data into Snowflake, right? So my first task would be ingesting the data from APIs. Can I use Postman for that?
No, it will not give the whole data.
Right? That's why I need to run a Python. Then why not start with Python? Because when you're gonna try with Postman, first you're gonna get stuck with Postman. Then again you're gonna get stuck with Python. You can still try Postman. There is no problem. But I mean, to be very honest, I would try with Python.
So I have another question. So I was thinking that whatever you get in the JSON will be done by other team, and you will just extract that. For example, AWS endpoint using that, and you can get that. But looks like we have to write this code to get any APIs, right?
It depends on company. Let's say Data Engineer Academy. Sorry, am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Let's say Data Engineer Academy. I don't have any other team who is sending me the data. I am the team. I have like 10 data engineers in my team, and those are responsible for ingesting, loading, performing. In that case, we will only have to do this, right?
Okay.
So it depends on team to team and company to company. You might have to do the whole stuff, or sometimes you will directly get the data into S3. You will just load it into Snowflake.
Okay. Yes,
I have
got
a
it.
question.
Another question. Sorry. Just this question. So for example, if I wanted to know the Facebook API, so how do I get, like, just like search as Facebook API?
Oh yeah. So what APIs are you looking for? Like Facebook API, developer API. You can just search. You'll get a documentation. Go to documentation. I would suggest. I think they need a developer account. So as you work more on APIs, you will understand that. So you see, these are different APIs they have. What is the data that you need? Marketing data.
Okay.
Okay, so let's say you want convergence API. So here is get started. You need to do these steps first before even hitting your APIs. So yeah, you can just search for that. That's it. No problem.
I see. Okay.
Yep. I think someone else had a question.
Yeah, Ninad, one
Yes.
sort
So
of go ahead.
yeah. So the question I had was so you're using Python to loop through the pagination to get all of the data into one JSON file. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, exactly.
So the ingestion didn't happen yet, right? It's just extracting
No,
all the data
no.
to one JSON file.
We are still at this point for REST API.
Right. So we're just gonna have one big JSON file after the pagination is done.
Good question. I will tell you. I'll come back to that point. That's a very good question. I'll keep that in loop. One big JSON or small JSON. I think Kareem can relate to this, but I'll come back to this question. So
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any question last? We can
Yeah,
move on.
one last question. I don't want to dwell too much on this, but just to understand, since we are working with different systems, and we took the example of Calendly. So currently, the Calendly data itself will be stored in the Calendly databases at their end. And when we talk about APIs, those data from their database is being pushed to an endpoint called an API from which we become the consumers. Is that how the
Exactly.
whole? I
Correct.
see.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Yep, that's right. And that's how we can consume our own data from their databases. That's right.
Thanks.
Now, that's where I suggested you guys. I'm gonna bring one assignment or one end-to-end project with Typeform, but I would suggest you guys, dig around this Typeform API. It's pretty similar, so you guys can understand. But yeah. Now, we understood, guys. So everyone understood why data lake. We have unstructured data, good point. But we have multiple sources. Both of them are going to contribute to a data lake. Cool. Now, coming to data, see now, the data is in there. We did API, we did it in Google Colab, Visual Studio, whatever it is. The first thing is now, in order to bring the data from these sources to Snowflake, there should be a middle layer because we cannot directly get the data from, they don't have connectors, right? If they would have directly had a connector from the CRM or Calendly to Snowflake, I would have used that connector. But there is no connect. So there is a big layer of AWS S3. Correct? So our task is to first bring the data into AWS S3. Okay. Now this is fine, guys. Any suggestions? I am open for real time. I am open for batch. Anything. How do you guys think we can get the data from these APIs? I'm gonna remove this Python for now. I'm gonna keep it down. I wanna play. I want to hear your suggestions, guys. What do you guys think, or how can we get the data from these three APIs to S3? I'm open for suggestions. Let's say I'm going to design a system. What do you guys think? How can we do that?
Is there like an AWS service that would ingest the JSON file?
Sorry, I didn't get the first part of the question. Sorry.
Is there an AWS service that will ingest the JSON files?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, guys. Do you guys know any services that we can use? We need to use AWS services, that's for sure.
Blue
Can
Job
we
API,
can we use
API gateway.
Sorry, I think Glue, I'll take first that. Glue plus, what was that?
I thought there is something called API gateway or something.
Right. So I'll do one thing. So you said first glue, okay, cool. Then you said API gateway, okay, cool. So I'm gonna write API gateway, okay, cool. I think someone else was saying something. Arti, was it you? I'll give you guys some suggestions. Lambda. Right now, you guys remember we can write a Python script. Think where all can I run these Python scripts? In AWS.
AWS direct connect.
Okay, direct connect. That's one more. Okay. Okay. What else? Cool, no problem. I'll just note down more options for you guys. EC2 / ECS / batch. Okay. So these are multiple options we can have as of now. Now see guys, you remember we want to run a Python script, or there is another option that is API gateway and direct connect. Direct connect is not actually used for API gateway. It's not really used in data engineering. So just rule out this one because we want to don't get into complication. Okay. Now there are 4 options: Glue, API gateway, Lambda, EC2, batch. Now these 3 options fall under one bucket where you can run Python script. Okay. So this is the bucket where you can run a Python script. Everybody
Batch, I
agrees
think
with
I
me?
know. What is EC2 and ECS?
Yes, good question. Python. Okay. EC2 is a core of our AWS. Okay. Elastic Cloud Compute. Okay. And Elastic Compute Services. So EC2 is where all your AWS services are running. Okay. The first service started by AWS. Now EC2 is nothing but a virtual compute or a virtual computer.
Got it.
Okay. Now in Lambda and Glue, Lambda and Glue, I'll show you. You see something like this, which is available on your. I don't have EC2 running, so I'll just show an example. But Glue and all those things I have running. So Glue, you will see some editors and all those things, right? Where you can write Python, PySpark, and those kind of Ruby kind of jobs, correct? So you go here, you'll see something like this kind of editor as well. You can run in notebooks, right? Same for Lambda. EC2, you can literally work it like a so you can literally work on EC2 like a virtual computer or laptop. Okay, where you can store your folders, you can store your data, you can run Python script, something like this. So you will have a virtual computer on AWS. Okay, so EC2, like I think we have some videos on EC2 in AWS. If not, I think Kareem, one more thing to add. You can look into EC2, but it's like a virtual computer. Okay, now, do you guys think an ECS? Okay, ECS is actually a smaller brother of EC2, where you just get a laptop's RAM and you don't even get your UI to run a code. Now, this is where Docker comes in picture. Okay, so there is a Dockerized image which can be attached to this ECS. So this is for security reasons that you don't want to expose your code and all. So we don't want to jump into that. So I'm going to remove ECS as of now. You will jump into ECS, ECR Docker later. So that's where ECS is used. Now guys, for this ingestion job, do you think using the complete computer is good option? What do you guys think? Any suggestions?
No.
Any guesses?
No.
Good. Yep. Because we just want to run a simple Python script, right? And you want to just hit the API, get the data, and write to S3. I don't think EC2 makes sense now. That's
Yeah,
why we
because
figure out.
it should be something like a serverless kind of a thing, right? Like a Glue or Lambda.
Good point. Let's come to server and serverless after this. Yes, I'll come back to that. Now, EC2, yes, remote, like you guys said, serverless or no need to use this complicated system. Now, this is how you would design a system, I'm telling you, okay? You note down all the possible options which are available in your cavalry, and you start breaking down based on the requirement and based on your some experience as well. Okay. Now we have an option of API gateway. I'll come back to that. Glue, Lambda, and batch. Okay. AWS batch is again a Dockerized format. You cannot see the code in a UI. So if I am doing a development, if I had to choose between batch and glue, I would go to glue because I want to see the code as well and how is it running. So it would be a tough choice actually, to be very honest. But most of the companies in real world are going to glue rather than batch. Okay, that's why I'm wearing out batch as well. Again, this is running on ECS or EC2 instance, so we don't need that heavy computation, and this is server. I think there we have a serverless option as well, but yeah, that's why I'm wearing out batch. Now there is a tough competition, guys. Serverless like Lambda, Glue is against serverless server, right? What do you guys think we should be using between these two? And why?
It depends on the size.
Great question. Great answer. Yes. What else?
Lambda has a restriction
Of what?
15 minutes.
15 minutes, right?
It can.
Sorry, go ahead, Joyce. Yeah.
I'm saying that Lambda, like the other person was talking about, Lambda has a restriction. It can only run up to 15 minutes. And Glue can run many jobs, and it has a deep data processing, and it is easier. So.
Got it. Cool. Makes sense. Okay. Go ahead. Anyone else wants to try something? Last one. Okay, no problem. So let's go there now. Now, you guys know how much time is it gonna take to ingest this data? 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. Do you know as of now?
So does it depend on the session
do not
or
know.
short term for Lambda?
Exactly. Why would you? Go ahead.
It depends on how long the session is going to run. Is it short term or long run for Lambda?
Yep. Correct. So what I would do is, first thing, in my local Visual Studio Google Colab, the Python script which I've designed, this one, I would let it run. I would let it run from 1st January. I will see how much time is it taking first. If it's taking 5 minutes, I'm fine using Lambda. If it's taking 10 minutes, I'm not really fine using Lambda because it is at the very, end, or it can sometimes go to 15 minutes as well. If it's taking 10 to 12 minutes, I would switch to Glue. Okay. So that's how you do the testing. You do it on local if you want. If not, you don't have local access. I would test the code directly into Lambda first. I wouldn't even go to Glue. The reason being pricing. Coming to the main point now. So let's say this is x86. Yeah, x86 is what we are using as of now, correct? And let's say we are using highest memory. Okay, highest memory. You see per million. Sorry, not this one. Yeah, let's go here. So this is the costing for every GB per second, and this is for per requests. Lambda is way cheaper than Glue, guys. Okay. If you had an option, if your solution is working with Lambda rather than Glue, go for Glue. Sorry, go for Lambda. My bad. Okay. But remember, you cannot have bigger tasks in Lambda. Right? That's where I would suggest to test it. Now, if I go back to my job, if I go to runs, okay, sorry, I'll go to job run monitoring. We can schedule it, right? Sorry, not job run, workflows. This is how orchestration works in Glue. I'm going to Glue job. I'm going to go to history. Every time it is taking me 1.5 hours, almost. Is Lambda an option for me? No. That's it. That's where I am going to Glue, not Lambda. This is how you cut down the multiple different systems. So when you're doing a system design, always ask question. And when it is API, I feel, to be very honest, if there is a pagination and when you're getting huge amount of data, because see, we are getting scheduled events, right? And this company can have hundreds of employees. The question would be, are you going to limit it to single user? Or are you going to take the data for all organization? Or are you going to take it for group level? Now, if you think group level can have multiple users, one user can still fit in Lambda. Okay. But now, when you're doing it at a user level, let's say first I'm getting the data for Kareem, then for Nina, then for Chris, then for Azmat, and n number of people. You might have to design a framework, guys, there. Because you cannot do a hard-coded thing what I've done here, right? Like here, if you see, I've hard-coded the organization. Because there is only one organization, Engineering Academy. If I had to do it for user, I cannot hard-code it like this, whatever I did show you here, right? Here, I cannot hard-code this. There should be a mechanism, like a table, where all the users are stored. And let's say you want to run it for Nina, then Kareem. You need to just update that table, and every time Lambda is going to run it for only Nina, then Kareem. Okay. But let's say later, we want to run it for 50 employees. Again, it won't work in Lambda. We will have to switch back to Glue. So these are some future things you might have to think of as a data engineer, future proofing your data pipeline. Always think what are the errors that you're going to get in your pipeline. Don't think how is it going to be successful. Think how is it going to fail, guys. Very important for data engineers. Think of why is your pipeline going to fail, and then design your system. That's when you're going to design the best systems.
Nina, quick question. Yeah. So once you hit that API and get the data, so it's like a one time, right? And in order to get the continuous, like if they added new employees, do we do like a scheduling where you keep on having the continuous ingestion, or how do you get that for the
right? So if you see, you guys are scheduling calls with every week or weekly basis or daily basis with CSMs, with SMEs, right? Now we want to store all these scheduled events in our data lake. Okay. Now the question is to you. What do you think? Do you want it to schedule every day? Because the requirement is you want to get leads on every basis. Who are the new leads who are coming into our CRM? What are the new calls that were scheduled with salespeople, CSMs, SME? I want to understand that on daily basis. So what do you think your process should be?
maybe store it in S3. I don't know. Some job, store it in S3. Or something like I mean, if it is a structured data, then I know that it's a JDBC connector or something, but not sure about it.
Let's not go to other requirement. This is the same requirement.
Like a nightly
Everything same. So you can schedule it in Glue with workflow orchestration. In Lambda, you can schedule it using CloudWatch. So in short, you need to schedule it.
Okay.
Okay. Now coming back. Future proofing, that's why I'm removing Lambda and I'm keeping Glue, guys. Any questions until here?
I have a question. So is the data streaming continuously? If it's wiring, I mean, this Glue, everything is like for compute services, right? So if it's a continuous data, so why are we not using like Amazon Kinesis or some other services? Like we didn't.
Good question. Okay, now let's again go back to source. So like I said, let's go back to source. Always understand from source side. So this is the source, which is CRM, Hyros, and Calendar. Okay. So CRM is when it's gonna store our lead data, right? Calendly is whenever you schedule a call with CSM or SME or a closer or anyone, salespeople, the event is going to be logged. Okay. Now, from business, do you need the real-time data? That is the question you need to ask business. If they are fine with batch processing, Okay, you don't even need to think of real time. Real time data is used. Trust me, even in FANGs, it's used only in very few cases. Not everybody is gonna need real time data sets. Okay, and that is the reason we are using Glue here, and we are not using. I mean, Kinesis Sparrow doesn't come in picture. I'll come back to that problem when we go to API gateway. But yes, we don't need real time here. The business requirement itself is they want the data once in a day. Okay, so these answers are going to be answered when you check what is your business requirement. Do you want to refresh it? Do you want it to be real time? You shouldn't blindly believe business because they don't know tech stuff. You need to check with them why. Are you fine with delay of 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours? Are you fine with it? Then what we can do is in real time, I would schedule like every hour I'll run a new job. Every 2 hours I'll run a new job. Just the data load it here. Now that's what I run 2 hours. I wouldn't even go to that real time stuff. That is a complicated stuff again. I hope that answers your question.
I have two quick questions.
Yes.
The first question is, so you explained the large versus small JSON file by stating that the larger JSON file would be Glue and the smaller JSON file would be Lambda.
I wouldn't say that Lambda. What I explained was,
you mentioned you were going to explain large JSON versus small JSON file. So
yeah, okay. So, rather than taking an event, I do 100 events. You remember this count? That's why your JSON was which was. That's where I'm coming. Large. Let's say I have the calendar schedule. Okay, how it's gonna work? You are gonna Glue is gonna Calendly API is gonna send request back.
So in this process, does Glue directly get
no API gateway? Another design as well. Now, 1,000 times correction as well for all those things. In S3, okay, I can API. For example, I do these. So what we are doing here is this is for every user in DA3. Okay, so the data user performance. But when I copied large JSON from S3, another problem. Guys, we can continue next week as well. JSON in Snowflake of how large you are sure that your data S3 for flattening. What? Snowflake data type on file. This data into Snowflake. All the how that makes sense. I'll just spend 5 more minutes. I don't read raw. So this is actually a smaller JSON. If I had to find a big JSON.
So it is only for JSON or all the files?
So what usually happens is 16 MB for everything. I mean, not just for JSON. It's for all the data types. You can in one row you can have only 16 GB data. 16 MB, sorry.
Oh,
We can-
for variant data that way, right?
No, every data.
Okay.
Yes, every data, right? For every data type, may it be integer, character, anything, you cannot have more than 16 MB worth of data in one row. Okay, so here you go. You see this? This is a 11.4 MB, value too large. Now, if you want to do the flattening, how do you do it? Because you don't know. You don't know how the data looks like, right? How do you do the flattening here? Like, in order to do the flattening, you need to understand the keys and values, right?
Yeah,
So that time,
the fly in the file.
yep, you're just gonna download the file, but you cannot download it when you're in a production environment. Right? That time what I would do is, for testing purposes, I would do it for all the leads. Let me just do it for 10 leads for now. Store the data for 10 leads, do the flattening, develop the code in Snowflake, and then go back in Glue and change the code and do it for all of them. That's what you would do.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is the combination of JSONs, combination of Glue. So that's why we used Glue, and that's how you would do the system design. I want to go back to API gateway, but I know we are over time, guys, because there are a lot of things still need to be discussed. I think this part just got covered.
Yeah. How does AWS know to not import duplicate events, like duplicate schedule, calendar events?
Good question. So what we did is actually, so you remember in Calendly, there was a minimum start time parameter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we did, we scheduled a Glue job to run on a specific time. Okay. Whenever we run this job, so if you see here, every day it runs on a fixed specific timing. This was an ad hoc run. I ran this. So it's running at 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Every time, what we did in code is go back 24 hours in our code and just get last 24 hours worth of data. So if I go in my code, don't worry about the rest of the things. So here we're going, start date is current date minus 1 day, end date is time dot now. So what we do is we just ask it to take last 24 hours worth of data, and we have scheduled it to run on same time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that's what it's gonna do. Cool. I know we are about end.
You can continue next.
Sorry?
No, I was saying we could continue next week from where we left now.
Yes. In the meantime, guys, the assignment for you would be go to Typeform. I want to discuss API gateway because it's very important how to choose between Glue and API gateway now. Because we cleared out Lambda, we removed batch and all. But would I choose API gateway or Glue? I think I can continue that next week. But yep. Any questions last 5 minutes? I'll give any doubts. So in our last call, we scheduled, we spoke about what are REST APIs, how to convert small JSONs into big JSON, about AWS Glue. I think we are going to speak about API Gateway and SageMaker, and Docker will speak in next call. So, quick question. Anybody tried going to Calendly and using their API? Did anybody do that? As a homework or an assignment or anything? Cool. If not, we might have to add the project because without that, understanding API would be very difficult. Okay. Cool. Now, just to revise what we're doing, we have multiple sources, that is CRMs, Calendly. So we have to hit their API and ingest the data. So we did so we compared Lambda, Glue, AWS Batch, EC2, and multiple other things to run the Python script. At the end, we selected Python due to various factors. So I'll be uploading that recording as well. So now we have used Glue to ingest the data from API. Now there was a question, why not use API gateway to ingest the API data from the CRM or Calendly. Okay. Now to understand, guys, how API gateway works, let's say we have an API gateway. Okay. Do you think anybody in the call, if you can tell me, API gateway can pull the data from APIs? Is it possible? Anyone in the call? Do you guys think we can pull the data from API gateway? Sorry, from API to API gateway? Or what would be the mechanic?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Sony says yes. Anyone else wants to give it a try? Cool, no problem. So there is no pull mechanism, okay, for API gateway. So what we need to do is this API needs to be able to push it towards API gateway. And that's where the concept of webhooks come in picture. So once you do, if you are able to do the assessment or assign, like some homework on Calendly, like we discussed last time, there is a concept of webhooks. What webhooks are, whenever there is a new event created in Calendly, it automatically sends a JSON to API gateway. So if I had to show you an example, how does it look? I'll show it in type form though. I have an example. So let's say we have multiple forms. Okay. Which one was that? So, sure. Connect. Yep. So here is webhooks. So what I've done is here, whenever this form is filled, I'm sending it to this API gateway. So one of my API gateway is going to be executed whenever a form is filled out. So what I can do is I can see my deliveries. As of now, nothing was delivered because I paused it. So webhooks is something which works in real time. So whenever you need a real time implementation from some APIs, webhooks are your go-to guys. Without webhook, you cannot do that. Okay. And that is the reason we didn't use API gateway. Any questions until here, guys? This is how you design the real time from CRMs or APIs through webhooks.
But if you have a
Any
REST
questions?
API or something, API gateway cannot like request from that REST API and get the data. Is it not
In order to
designed?
get, you need to let API gateway know that you need to run the get, right?
Okay.
How would you trigger API gateway to run the get statement? You'll have to execute that get statement, correct?
Yeah.
So you'll have to schedule it.
Yeah, schedule it to run like every hour or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. So it won't be real time. Now the real time concepts are webhooks only for API gateway. So until and unless your source cannot, send webhooks, API gateway is not your option. And if you don't want it in real time, please don't go for it. It's going to be over engineering. If you can take care of it in batch processes, go for it. There is no need of going for real time if there is no need. Okay? Because it's going to be costlier.
Yeah.
Cool. Any questions, guys? Any other questions? Okay. So moving ahead, once we have the data into Glue, we are ingesting through API, we are combining the JSONs and writing it to AWS S3. Okay. And once the data is into S3, we have chose Snowflake. Now guys, why do you think, let's say we have Redshift, Snowflake, Databricks. Why would we choose if you were given a chance? What would you guys choose and how would you decide what to choose? A system design question again.
I would say cost.
Okay. Redshift is the cheapest in terms of cost.
Let's say cost and processing unit power.
Yeah, processing unit, everybody has seen. At the end of the day, Snowflake is also using EC2 in their AWS, and Snowflake is also using EC2 on their side, and Redshift they are using EC2 on our AWS instances. So same power, I would say, for computing. What else do you guys think? Anyone else?
Like the company's current architecture.
Let's say you're building new architecture. You're building a new data lake. So how would you choose between Snowflake, Redshift, Databricks? So the biggest advantage I would tell you, first thing, now let's say we started building our own data lake. What was the first thing that came to my mind? Sorry?
Is it because the compute and storage layer are two different things in the Snowflake? So that's why we
Databricks
are.
also has that, and Redshift also has that. Everyone has that. So almost every feature is same in all three. Okay. But remember, when you guys logged in, how much time did it take for you to host Snowflake, guys? Anyone who has done the projects? How much time did it take to start Snowflake and understand Snowflake? Was it easy to understand?
Yeah.
Cool. So hosting Snowflake takes 5 minutes. Hosting Databricks takes days. Hosting Redshift takes days. Okay. For Redshift and Databricks, we might need an admin who can understand Spark and Redshift clusters. Snowflake, you don't really need admin to start with if you're a small team. Redshift, an extra engineer is added, and Snowflake has a lot of extra features as compared to Redshift. You can say, zero copy cloning and time travel. There's a good clustering mechanism in Snowflake. Now, Snowflake versus Databricks. Yes, Spark can be cheaper if you have huge amount of data. But again, if you are able to engineer it in Snowflake, it's similar cost, I would say. I personally felt Snowflake's support team is way better than Databricks. That's what I felt. Now, if I had to host Snowflake versus Databricks on AWS, Snowflake takes 5 minutes, Databricks can take days. There, we might need again a PySpark developer. Because that's how Spark works, right? And here, we only need a SQL developer. Because we can write stored procedures there. That's how I would choose. Make sense, guys?
So Snowflake is more versatile, right?
Snowflake is very easy, I would say. But as you go ahead in TBs, there are a lot of debates that Spark can work better. But I am still not sure personally, if you ask me. I feel both are same, even when it goes to TB's worth of data. Just that Spark has more control over your cluster when we go to TB's worth of data. I feel Snowflake can be costlier sometimes, but still Databricks can be also costlier. Now, personally, what I feel is Databricks doesn't manage our storage, right? It is AWS S3 or Azure ADLS, and the compute is also ours. Now, when I'm using AWS, I'm paying for AWS EC2 instances as well as Databricks for their wrapper. So that is one thing we might have to compare with Snowflake. Running huge. And again, there are a lot of papers debating about this. So in short, Databricks is going to be like more developer intensive. Snowflake can be easy to use. But when it comes to AI ML, I know Snowflake has a lot of features as of now, but hands down, Databricks is your guy.
What's your opinion? Your thoughts about Azure?
Yes. So Azure, as of now, I'll tell you the shift. Most of the companies are using AWS and ADF and Databricks in Azure. Only two technologies, nothing more. Now, Microsoft Azure is shifting their attention from Databricks to Synapse and Fabric. So they have launched the Fabric concept, which includes Synapse Analytics, these notebooks and everything, so that they won't have to be dependent on Databricks. I still like Azure. It's similar to AWS, where whatever I've used. But I feel AWS to be having more market. It has more market. And see, one thing, if you know AWS, learning Azure is very easy. Now, the only thing we are going to add new is Spark, PySpark, and Databricks module on top of AWS itself. So if you know Databricks, then you know 90% of the Azure again. Because they are using just ADF and Azure. So ADF and Databricks, nothing else in Azure. 90% of companies are doing that. 10% of the companies have started using the rest of the things. Hope that makes sense.
Did you say ADF?
Yes, Azure Data Factory.
Okay.
Yep. It's an ETL tool where you can do extraction and all those things, transformation and loading. But companies use it for extraction and loading and scheduling your Databricks notebooks. Cool. So, yep. Any questions in the architectures or any data engineering questions you have, guys?
I just have one. Can we get a copy of this diagram in school after the training?
Sure, I can. One more thing. Okay. Let's do a quick assessment maybe. Let's do a quick data modeling thing as well. Okay, so guys, I have two tables, order items and order items options. Okay, so this is restaurant related data, restaurant related orders. Okay, now the question is we need to find customer lifetime value. We need to calculate recency, frequency, and monetary. And then we need to do customer segmentation. Okay. So let's say both the tables are in SQL Server. Who can help me with the system design and data modeling for both of them? So we have source tables as order items. Order items and order items. Yeah, order items. And then order items option. Now, we need to create a system design where we need to calculate these three things. How would we design our system and how would we design our database? Who wants to start?
What does CLTV means or RF?
Customer lifetime value. This is customer lifetime value. And RFM is recency, frequency, monitoring.
So like Nina, CLTV is something like the person is like a premium customer, like some subscriptions or something like that. Like we can assume like that.
So not premium. So let's say a restaurant, there is a restaurant chain. They have multiple restaurants. Okay. They want to understand how much has Vinay spent in his complete lifetime with the restaurant chain.
Okay.
That is what customer lifetime value means.
Okay.
Let's say you went into a restaurant once, you your bill was like, let's say $100. You went to this on the second time and your bill was $200, then your customer lifetime value is $300.
Okay. So they are keeping track of historical data.
Yes.
So yeah.
So guys, first thing is system design.
I can try, like, if I don't know if it will be like right or
Sure,
wrong,
no
but I can
problem.
try.
You know,
So
what
like
do you
here we
think
are
would do first?
So here we are talking about historical data, and you are assuming that this is a real-time streaming data, right? So
No,
data will be
batch
continuously
processing. We
flowing.
don't need real time.
Okay, batch processing. So as you said, your thumb rule in the videos. So let's start with the data maintenance system, DMS, AWS DMS, connected with
Yeah.
SQL Server.
So why DMS?
Because I would say the data is flowing continuously, and data maintenance system will manage that data, and it will like they push it to S3 or next our source where we keep all those files.
Sure. Anyone else has objection on this that we can use something else?
Yeah, I'm thinking glue in case of instead of DMS,
Okay.
because I think DMS can use when you do like a data migration, like from one database to other. In this case, glue might work, I guess.
Sorry, what did you say at the end?
In this case, AWS Glue will work, like it has data catalog where it can capture what are the schema changes and everything. And also you can have the trigger mechanism, like job schedule, everything you can do it in the Glue itself.
And why not AWS DMS as per you?
That's what I feel like. We can use the TMS when you're migrating the entire database, like from one place to another, or database to database.
Sure. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Now, how do you choose between both of them? Both of them are right, but I personally would go to DMS. If I have the budget, it's serverless, it can be a bit costlier. Again, there are overheads. This can be costlier, this can be cheaper. If I have cost, I would go to DMS because it's not only full load, we can do change data capture in DMS as well. DMS can do change data capture, it can read the transactional log from your source, and it can automatically capture the changes and write it to AWS S3. We don't have to schedule it, we don't have to write any code. It can be hosted within 10 minutes. Coming to Glue, we'll have to write the code in, let's say, Spark again. We can write it in Python, but might be costlier again. So there's a Spark and PySpark overhead. We'll have to write the JDBC connection code. We'll have to create a metadata as a framework code in AWS Glue, because let's say if there are 2 tables, now there are 2, later there can be 10, then there can be 100. Every time a new table is added, Glue should be automatically able to ingest the new table. That's what framework means. Third thing, we will have to manage.
Sorry, Nina, can you just explain that once again, please? The little bit, the back.
Right. So let's say let's go to Glue really. Now, when we
I
create
have one more doubt with the connectors. Some people say there are 35 or 40 inbuilt connectors. So what does that mean? Like,
DMS
mostly we hear that in Fivetran. When we are using Fivetran, people say it has 35 or 33 inbuilt connectors. So what does that mean?
Yes. So first, let's go through Glue. Then we'll come back to connectors. So let's say you're gonna write a Glue job. Okay. You have written a Glue job where you're ingesting from, let's say, any SQL server. I don't have anything from RDBMS, but let's say, let's do this. So you see this, you need to write a Python script, something like this. Okay. Now, when you're connecting to SQL server, you're gonna write JDBC connections and all those things. Okay. When you're writing JDBC connection, you're gonna write a SQL query, select star from order items, select star from order items options. Okay. Take all the data, store it in Glue's memory, and then write it to S3. Then you're going to do for order items options. You're going to do it for all the tables which you are supposed to ingest. Now, you do it for the first day. Second day, you don't want to pull all the historical data. You just want to pull from yesterday to today. That is where you will have to design a watermark framework as well. So just that if you guys want to learn what exactly watermark framework means, so we have one project actually. I don't assign it usually to anyone. But I think I should. So if you guys go to free projects, there is a Snowflake watermark project. Very small project, but this helps you understand what are watermark concepts in detail. How would you do incremental data loads by using watermarks? You can try this out. So watermark is nothing but we take last run date and use it to current timestamp and all those things. It's already there in our system design and other AWS technologies. So I won't get into detail there. But yeah, that is the overhead in Glue. Okay, any questions until here? You guys agree? Let's use DMS. That's why we remove, I would say, Glue. Okay. Now moving ahead, I think you asked what are connectors, right? So if I had to show you an example practically, I can show you a DMS. I don't have Fivetran as of now. Great. So I will just serverless migration. Yeah, okay, here source database endpoint. I'll have to create the endpoints. Okay, so now when we say DMS,
Ninad, your voice is breaking.
Yeah, you're breaking up. Your voice is breaking up.
Is it for everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't hear you well.
Yes.
Can you hear me now better?
Yeah, now we have to back up like 2 minutes, a minute or two.
So what does connector means is AWS DMS can connect to Oracle database, SQL Server, Google Cloud, Azure. It can connect to Amazon Document DB, SAP AC, MongoDB. So multiple sources. So what connector means is, or what are these tools? You won't have to write a code like Glue. You can just directly connect by giving the credentials of that source, give a target system like DMS, and directly write it from source to target. You won't have to write any code over there. It's a no code tool. So what connector means is Fivetran can connect to n number of sources and can write to n number of targets as well. If you see here, it can, I don't know how, they have 688 connectors. Now what connectors means is you can use Fivetran to connect to 360 learning. Get the data from 360 learning and write it to your required or desired target. That's what connector means. That's it. Simple. It can connect to multiple sources. Now, why
It's
would
like
you?
It's like a intermediary.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, why companies are using tools like Fivetran? You know, there is one called Zapier as well. We can use that as well for automations and do this stuff. Why do they use this is, when you want to go for no-code tools, there is no much overhead and you have multiple sources, n number of sources. This is an easier way to collect the data from multiple sources and write it to your desired output.
So Nina, just a
That's why
small thing.
they use Fivetran.
So like for example, we are talking about SQL and NoSQL databases and some different databases. So like different other sources. So we can use these kind of connectors from different sources to put into our target, right? Something like that.
Yes, so it's not only databases. So, we can connect to multiple CRMs as well. So if you see here, they have Zoho, Microsoft, they should have HubSpot as well, I think. Yep. So it's not only databases. That's the advantage. So do we have close? Yep, close. So now how it helps, I'll tell you. You have marketing data, let's say in Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics. You have CRM data in Close or HubSpot. Right? You have your transactional data in some SQL server or any OLTP database. You want to ingest them using single tool, Fivetran is your best friend. There are multiple other tools, but Fivetran has been doing good as of now in market. So it's not just databases. Lot of
like to replace, instead of using DMS, we use the Fivetran?
DMS is specifically for databases.
Okay.
DMS is specifically for databases, and if you are on AWS, the Fivetran doesn't let you have to be on any cloud. You can directly start using it. So let's say there's a small company. So two problem statements here. If you're a small company, you have multiple sources, you can use Fivetran. If you're a very big company, have multiple sources, rather than designing your systems manually, you can use Fivetran.
Okay. So it can even load it to Snowflake or like any of the
Can load it to multiple locations. Kinesis, Firos, S3, Snowflake, Redshift, Databricks, a lot of them.
Nina, just a small thing. So like, why can't, if the sources are coming from different places, why can't we dump that in Databricks, and from there, why can't we connect to DMS and again back to the AWS? Why can't we do something like that?
Exactly. Now, like we discussed about Snowflake versus Databricks. To host Snowflake, it takes 5 minutes. To host Databricks, it can take some time, right?
That's the only issue with that. So
yeah, to design this, you need a team. You'll have to maintain those pipelines, all those things.
But Databricks offers their own support, right?
They don't offer it until you have the billing of $10,000 per month.
Okay.
So I just connected with them yesterday. I wanted to host my GenAI platform on Databricks. So it's simple, clean and clear for them, but that's what it is now. So these companies have been providing way better supports. Personally, what I feel, if you are a big player, they provide a good support. Right? But again, even if they provide the support, remember you still need to do the data engineering stuff. You need to go to CRMs, you need to go to N number of sources, understand those sources, connect to their APIs, get the data, plan the incremental data ingestion and everything. If you are given an option.
I was thinking like it would be better if we consolidate all the data in a single warehouse or a data lake, and from there, if we get the data, that would be easy, or we can get individual things. That's what you said, like it depends on the companies. So anything,
right,
any other
to combine as well. First, you need to bring it from different sources, right? To bring it, that's what Fivetran will help you.
Okay.
There are two options. Either you write your manual code. Okay, quick example here. I just did it. So here, when I was showing you my glue script, I am connecting to multiple sources, multiple APIs. I am doing this manual. Okay. This is a code which you have like 200 lines of code. This is one. You see these many sources. We have written our own manual codes. If I could have used Fivetran, I wouldn't need these many codes. Just few clicks, I would be able to connect to my Calendly, my CRM, Hyros, multiple CRMs, and I would have been able to get those leads. Okay, but remember, when there is a no code tool, it can be a bit costlier. Not that much, but a bit costlier.
Okay, got it.
When you do your own stuff, obviously it will be cheaper, right? So that's how they play.
So does Fivetran give you the flexibility to retrieve, for example, like let's say Calendly, right? So do they give you? Does Fivetran have the flexibility that we can do with code in terms of getting events from different like users or calendar events or so forth?
Yep. So these are no code tools where you don't even need to code. You will directly have a connector. So example, if I want to show you, I'll show you another tool example like Zapier. if you guys have heard about this.
Zapier, yeah.
This is similar, but in smaller terms. This is mostly used for automations. But let's say I had Calendly events. Every time a Calendly event is created, I wanted to store it in my data warehouse. Okay. So what I did is, whenever a Calendly event is created, I set up a trigger through Webhooks.
Right.
I didn't have to do anything. It's already there in Calendly. Sorry, in Zapier. So I just need to edit draft. I'll show you. I just need to add a trigger. Once the trigger is added, I can select what trigger I want. Okay. I'll show you that example. And then there are multiple basic transformations. And at the end, I can write it to S3 as well. If you see here, I'm writing it to S3. Now I have multiple options. So let's say Azure is not very famous here in Zapier, but we can write it to Azure Active Directory. And if we go to AWS, we can write it to Lambda. I think just select Amazon. We can write it to SNS, S3, SES, SQS. A lot of options are available. So similar way, if I try and you just click. So let's say if I want to write it to AWS S3, I can write it to Snowflake as well. So you just do this. You give your connection. Whatever you want to do. You do want to create a row, execute a SQL, update, find a row, whatever you want, you can do it here. So you don't have to write a code here. But if you were doing the same thing, let's say in Glue or Databricks or anything, you would have to manually write the code, ingest the data from Calendly. So let's say if I create something like this, Zap. You see this trigger? There are 7,000 plus triggers in Zapier. Now this can be real time. This can be used for real time. Similar way, Fivetran can be used for real time and batch processing again, but no code tool. Whenever there is a new file in Google Drive, whenever there is a new email, whenever there are new transactions happening. So always remember, it's not only databases. You can have n number of sources. And these days, data engineers are working with unstructured data as well. So as GenAI is growing, data engineers are supposed to work with some document data as well. As of now, I'm working with text messages, emails to ingest them and store it somewhere. So it's getting very difficult. It would improve, but yes, it's coming up. It's going to be very important. So we are no longer going to work with just semi-structured JSONs, XMLs, and CSVs, guys. Remember that.
Huh. So Fivetran can do webhooks and APIs and triggers just like Zapier?
Kind of, yes. It can be scheduled as well. Zapier is mostly automation. I just wanted to show you the no-code tool. Zapier is very small in terms of, compute. Fivetran is heavier. You can do heavy ingestions, like GBs and TBs worth of data.
Got it.
Can we include Apache Airflow for scheduling in case of Fivetran or Zapier?
Fivetran is not a scheduling tool.
Just from source to data, it just moves the data. That's it.
Yep, that's it.
So it's basically
in Airflow, you can.
No, I was gonna say, so it's basically like a graphical interface way to transport data using webhooks and triggers.
Exactly. Multiple sources, again, 700.
data
They have 700 connectors like they show here. So it's a no-code tool. You don't have to write a code. Just drag and drop. I don't know if you guys have used Informatica, SSIS, those kind of tools. Older ones, but this is new ones. Completely no code.
So how does the Fivetran works for like incoming new data? In ETL, in AWS Azure or something like, sorry, AWS.
No, they have their own chain data capture. So see, when you're doing like, I mean, we're not teaching Fivetran because as of now, it's not being widely used in big tech companies, or they're not asking in interviews because it is easily learnable We were planning it to bring in Q2, but we pushed it for Q3 because we are still not seeing a lot of interviews asking for it. So I wouldn't worry about Fivetran, but to answer your question, simply what we do is when we're ingesting it from, let's say, SQL Server or RDBMS, you get a change data capture option of timestamp. So you can give a timestamp column and you can give last run's timestamp in that field. So what happens is, let's say today it ran at 10 a.m. It is going to get everything until 10 a.m. Tomorrow it's going to use the timestamp column which is available in source and going to pick up the data which is loaded into source after yesterday's 10 a.m. So Fivetran has that feature of change data capture. I mean, not exactly transactional logs and all, but based on timestamps, you can do that.
I see. Okay.
You won't have to write a code for that.
Hi, Ninant. Can you please tell me, Sapri also like in contact with the ingestions in PySpark on premises as
Forget about Zapier, guys. That was just to show you no code tool. It's just for automations used by startups. Okay, not by big tech companies. It doesn't have a lot of memory, Spark and all. No connection. It's just to do automation stuff. I was showing you for no code basis. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing to do with PySpark, Spark, anything.
So for the DMS one, like in this example, you can use DMS to get from SQL Server. What will be the destination? It can load into S3 the table data as a CSV file? Or?
So initially they had very few destinations. Now they have a lot of destinations. You can directly write it to Snowflake as well.
Oh,
you can write it to, so whatever was source that can be target as well. Just FYI.
Got it.
But along with that, now we have more data warehouses rather than OLTP databases. Okay, so you can write it to Redshift. You can write it to S3 again, SAP ASC, same Amazon DynamoDB. But if you see, you cannot ingest from DynamoDB.
Yeah,
you can write.
Snowflake is not here.
You can write to Snowflake. I don't know why it's not on the list. It's there.
Okay.
Should be directly there. Just a second.
That's fine.
Yep, Snowflake destination configuration. So you cannot do it as source, but you can do it as target.
Got it. I see.
DynamoDB. Yeah, you can. Snowflake destination configurations.
Okay.
You can write your Genesis files and all. Yeah.
Is like Fivetran going to be like kind of the future where companies are going to go to, in your opinion, or no?
Some of them, yes, not everyone. Now, what happens is some companies are very developer friendly. They want to control their frameworks. So, like Vinay asked me, right? Why not we do it in Databricks and PySpark? So, if they are developer heavy, they try to do that. If there are companies who don't want to spend more time in developing and just care about the results. So, yes and no. I would say mid-level companies are widely using it.
Okay, because it seems like less error prone, right? I mean, you get less errors if you're using less coding and less developing, less operational risk.
Yep, that's right. I'm seeing one thing: wherever DBT is used, Fivetran is being used. Big companies are using, just a friend, not like that. But if I were given an option, I wouldn't spend extra there because I would first do the coding myself. That's why we are more developer friendly. If the company doesn't have more developer friendly people, I think going for Fivetran is the right option. Because you won't have to write the code and identify how to connect to those sources. So that's one thing I'm seeing trend wherever DBT is used, Fivetran is being asked in a lot of JDs and a lot of companies. So, yep, might be there.
And Nina, for the DMS, so like the change data capture, everything's built in. Is it like when new data comes in, it automatically trigger to move it again?
Yes, correct. That's right. And real time. Whenever there is a new data in source, a transactional log is registered. DMS can identify that. DMS understands there is a change in source and it triggers the it actually triggers your DMS and then ingest that new data and writes it to your target destination. Cool. Any other questions? So I think you're going to ingest with DMS and S3. So rather than writing to S3, this time I'll write it directly to my data warehouse. So I'm going to choose, we are fine with Redshift, Snowflake, anything. But whatever we discussed before some time, that's why I choose Snowflake rather than Redshift. Now, if you guys had to do the data modeling for this stuff quickly, you guys have
small thing. Sorry to interrupt you. The thing is, when she was considering about glue, and I told her, like when someone talked about glue, and I said about DMS, you raised a point saying that change data capture is not going to happen in glue, but we can do that in DMS, right? So, but why do we need to think about change data capture when we are talking about Snowflake? Because at the end, we are going to write it in the Snowflake.
No,
and
we're talking about
Snowflake
source.
can take care of that.
Remember, source. Snowflake is your destination. Whenever you're going to ingest from source, there is going to be new data in source, right?
Okay.
On everyday basis. So we need to ingest that on everyday basis and then write it to a destination.
Okay.
So change data capture is always on source, not on target. Let's say you have two tables as well, and you want to do change data capture on both the tables. It's going to capture on your table, and that table is going to be your source of that change data capture, not target or destination.
So Ninang, AWS DMS is a real time or batch processing?
It's real time completely. You don't have to schedule it. Yep, it all automatically understands so we have a DMS project. You can go through that project as well. So it understands what is available in source and it automatically ingests it. So it can be a bit costlier. Yeah. Good.
Can we add also here is like PySpark code in AWS DMS?
No, there is no coding system in DMS. Simple, connect to source, connect to target, give the table names. That's it.
So does it work also parallel processing or just like this like a serial processing in DMS?
There is no processing kind of things here, not very complicated things. Whatever we have in Spark and all, because that's a database processing. This is just extraction and loading. No processing here.
Extraction.
Just extract, load, copy, paste. That's it.
So in DMS, you have to define the timestamp field.
But I remember, yes. Okay, hold on. No. So what happens is in DMS, you just give the table names. Not like glue. You just give table names. It's going to scan the table and write it to your target. Nothing timestamp at all.
Oh, based on the transaction logs.
No, you don't need to. If you haven't, guys, sorry, you can go through the AWS DMS data ingestion project in AWS in our portal. That should help you understand more on DMS. Yep, Azhar, go ahead.
So Nian, my question is that like suppose 1 terabyte is like a data ingestion per day or in 5 hours. Does it like deal with handle 1 terabyte AWS?
Yes, it does.
Okay, wonderful.
Yep, there's no problem in doing that. It's a bit costly because it's serverless and all those things. So there are pros and cons everywhere, guys. DMS is serverless. When you won't have to write code, remember one simple thing. If you are not writing code, whatever tool then you're going to use, it might be a bit costlier as compared to if you are going to write the code in PySpark or anywhere. It's everywhere. So ease of use can add an extra cost in your pocket. That's how world or data engineering works. But everywhere, it's a type of business where you have ease of use, you need to pay more, right? That's how it is here. If you would have used glue, it would have been cheaper, but you would have to do a lot of coding there. I'm still using glue.
what is a parallel product in AWS Azure's?
Azure also has data migration service.
So it is also like serverless and also like just plug and play. Don't write any.
Yes, yes, but companies don't use that usually. Companies use Azure ADF, Azure Data
ADF.
Factory. Yep,
ADF.
they are using ADF. Cool. I know we have last 7 minutes. Let's complete the data modeling stuff quickly. So we have two tables as source, that order items and order item option. Okay. Order items has the data related to what was ordered. It has is loyalty status as well, currency. Item options has something that was ordered as a siders. Okay, that's nothing else. Now, once the data goes to our database, we need to create a data model. Let's say we want to create a data model for, let's forget customer segmentation. We want to create a customer lifetime value and recency frequency monitoring. Can anyone quickly do the data modeling stuff here? How would you guys create? So to add more details, we have bronze, silver, gold, everything is here. Okay, 3 layers. Now how would you do data modeling of?
I think first we should check whether it's a fact or dimensional table. In this case, order items, which has that transactions and everything, is fact. What is this? The next one is, what is the table? Order
item options.
options. Order item options. Thinking whether it's a fact or dimension.
Let's say it's fact. How it's gonna help?
Okay, both are fact tables. Then we can use STD2 in this case if it is fact.
But this is your source.
That's my source. So you just have to directly put them in the bronze layer, the raw, the completely raw.
Okay, done. What next?
Okay, now silver is where we have to, maybe if there are some transformations like removing the null values or duplicates removing, that we can do it in the silver.
No, data modeling stuff, not transformation.
STD2 is done in the silver layer.
Exactly. So the question is now, are we gonna have same two tables in silver and just do STD2 on top of this?
No, you're just gonna need the data you need to do your calculations, right?
Join.
Sorry, what are the questions, Sonny?
No, so you're only gonna need the data that's necessary to do your calculations, correct?
That's the question. That's the data modeling question. What do you guys think? So my requirement is I need these two things, and I have these two tables as sources. How would you do the data? How would you build the data model?
Well, you need a customer ID. You need a user ID.
Okay, we already have it in order items. So let me do one thing. Let me paste this there. Okay.
And whatever is related to the price, we also need those details. Like those
so we already
fields.
have that in source. Whatever data we already have that in source. So the question would be, how would you create a data model in silver layer? What would you do in silver layer?
See, mostly we do transformation like joins, CTs and all that, and get ready for the gold layer. Basically, we are talking about Medallion architecture right here. So like the principle is
yeah, let's consider Medallion, but the thing is now in source you have two tables, correct?
Yeah.
In silver, what will you have? Forget about transformation and all.
You
At
have
table level, data model.
regarding
aggregation. You have
Filter like
aggregated.
filter, clean, augmented like. So what? Suppose we need some particular like customer. We have to filter. Don't take all the like raw integration.
Okay, so just let me reframe the question. We have order items, item options in terms of data modeling. Okay, in terms of data modeling, you remember you guys might have done that star, snowflake, and all those things, right? Flag, dimension, whatever you learn. So order items option. You first need a customer table, right? In order to understand customer dimensions. Is that right?
Yes.
That's what Sony said. But there you missed one thing. You need to take only user ID. For that user ID, if is loyal, okay, what else do we have related to customer? If you have that customer's name, we can take it, or else we have his credit card, that is printed card number. So a customer table would be a dimensional table where we have customer related data, which would be formed using order items. Correct?
Yes.
So this is going to be a dimension table. Okay, I'm going to keep it here. First table of a data model. My business requirement is I want customer lifetime value. A simple table that has customer lifetime value. Okay. There is a formula for customer lifetime value, average order value into whatever the formula is. Forget about that. That is going to be used from both of these tables. Okay. We need both of these tables to create a customer lifetime value table. Okay. Now, coming to real data modeling question. So for one user, let me open Excel quickly. How this table will look like when we do real data modeling. User ID, we can have all those average order value and all those things required for frequency and all. Frequency, last order date, that is what we will need here as well. So whatever is the formula for customer lifetime value, we are going to have all those columns here. Then we will have CLTV. Now, let's say Vinay comes in. He comes in on 19th March. We get a customer lifetime value of $100. Average order value, whatever it is. So we get the customer lifetime value. Vinay again comes in on 23rd March. Sorry. Okay. So let's say this is what you have in your order items. One user can come multiple times, correct guys?
Yes.
How would you manage that into your customer lifetime table?
By his
Like
customer ID.
group by user ID and sum up the CLT.
Sorry?
Running total.
Okay. In terms of data modeling.
So we will have his customer ID.
You need like a key, right?
User ID
like a
and
key.
card detail as a unique key, like for any one of them.
Okay, something related to SCD guys in data modeling. See what will happen, I'll tell you. Vinay, when he came on 19th, his customer lifetime value was 100. Let's say on 23rd, he made the bill of 200 and it just became $300. Okay.
So it's like a running total, right? Like it keeps adding.
Yeah, we'll keep that simple as of now, customer lifetime value. Okay. He came again in June. Then this comes on adding. Now, do you want to delete this record and just keep this? Or do we need this record as well? What do you guys think?
I think we should have it. The historical data.
This depend upon according to the requirement. So, like if we keep record of all the previous other raw data, we should have to keep record in our bronze layer. But for our silver, we can think about it. We can delete it.
Yep.
Yeah, as she suggested, it is SCD2, so we can delete the historical data and use the latest one.
Yeah, it's CD.
I think it depends on the business requirement.
Yeah, sorry, you can talk. Yeah.
No, I was just saying it depends on the business requirement, right? Because if they want to see a trend of lifetime value for each customer, then yes. But if they just want to see the overall trend of lifetime value, then
exactly that's the point. Here we keep the history because we can see the historical trend as well as the current trend. even if business asks, you as a data engineer need to understand that in future there is going to be a requirement where they can ask for the historical trend. So in terms of business requirement, when we see a customer lifetime value, what we would like to see that whether Vinay's lifetime value is increasing or decreasing, right? We don't want to see just that this is his lifetime value. Okay. Now, if you keep history, it's going to give you more metrics. So data modeling is all about that. When you try to understand the data, can you derive more information from the same data model? And then you start adding more columns into the table. Insert date, update date, version start date, version end date, all those things. Version start date, and version end date. Okay, version end date. So now your table, what you'll have is one row would be associated with one date, and for that date you'll have a customer lifetime value. In order to understand the recent one, you can just pick up, here you will have 9999-12-31. So this is your latest lifetime value. If you want to see the curve, whether it is going up or down for Vinay, you can do that now. Now that's where your data modeling table would be here. This would be SCD2 having these many columns.
Right.
Now, there was another requirement, recency frequency monitoring. So for every order, it is possible to get the recency frequency and monitor. It is kind of a bit of statistical thing. That is recency frequency and monitoring used for a lot of statistical analysis. Now for every order, so here if you see now, this is at day level, not at order level, correct? Whenever a user ID is visiting a restaurant, we are calculating its customer lifetime value and then we keep on its whole history. Do we want to do same thing for recency frequency monitoring, or we just need RFM at user ID level? RFM. We don't need its whole history. Based on that, you're going to decide whether you should put RFM in same table here or you should create a new table for that. Make sense? Yes? If possible,
Yes.
you can do it in same table, correct? You
If it's
can
possible,
have,
yeah.
yes, you can do it in same table, you can keep it in separate table, but that's where your pros and cons can kick in, and that's where your data modeling answer should be on the point. So this is a simple data model, I would say. There can be complicated ones. The one which I'm building for, like, let's say our data engineering academy, we have like 10, 15 different tables, different aggregations. But in data modeling, remember, fact and dimension is not everything.
Well, I mean, the reason you would put in a separate table would be for like query simplicity reasons.
Yes, one thing, that's right. Another thing is, if I want RFM just one row for one user, why do I keep on storing historical data, 3 extra columns in this table?
Right.
I'll be storing 3
Unnecessary.
extra columns, more memory, more processing.
Right.
So rather than that, I'll just store one row and update it whenever it changes. And this can be SCD1.
Right.
So pros and cons again. So SCD, how does it play a role in data modeling? That's what I wanted to explain you guys. So rather than theory, think of in a practical business way for data modeling on how would you design your database. So we have recorded this anyways, and we'll surely upload this. Any questions? I know we are over time.
I was gonna say the business requirements heavily drives the model, correct?
Oh yes, for sure. So if you see your data modeling question, always you have a business requirement and then you need to design a model, right?
Yes.
Yes, business requirement, right?
So Ninad,
Thank you.
can we say that like when there are frequent changes in table, like the first table we are considering day wise, and the second table we are considering it as like hour wise or some hourly or
No,
something. So
nothing like that.
RFM table.
No,
Okay, so
not
like
like that.
which changes frequently, we can put it in a different table, right? Instead of putting everything in a dimension table, we can use fact table for that also, right? If it is frequently updated, frequently getting
Not
updated.
really. See, this is also going to be free. I'll see. If you go second time, this table is also going to change. This table is also going to change. Correct? Because your recency, frequency, monetary value can also change. Correct?
Yeah.
Now, the trade-off is, do you want to store the whole history of RFM? Then you can do it in same table. You don't even need second table. You don't even need this. Right? So when you think more on the topic, that's when you get the answer.
I see.
So what we mean is here, every time you get a new, whenever you visit a restaurant, you're going to create a new process that is going to store data into new table. Now, storing the data into new table, okay, is cheaper, but processing it every time, is it cheaper, or keeping in same table in same SQL query, will it be cheaper? Like, let's say from source, you got all these data. There are two tables from source. You wrote one stored procedure or one DBT model or one PySpark code. You transformed everything and brought it into one data frame of one table, and then wrote it to one table everything. Second option is you wrote everything until version started and NDTS. Then you created another DBT model and stored procedure or a PySpark table, notebook. You transformed and rewrote the same data to another table. Which one is efficient?
I mean, they both have separate costs, right? One has more data costs, but the other option has more processing costs.
Right, but storage cost is always cheaper. And anyways, you're storing here, and storage cost is way more cheaper. It's few cents on dollars. Always remember that.
So in this example, this would be the silver layer and the gold layer in this example?
So in silver layer, what I would do is I would create a table something like this. In gold layer, based on their reports requirement, the first requirement would be for every user ID, give me their customer lifetime value. So you're gonna write a table, select star from silver, where where version NDTS, version NDTS is equal to 3112,999.
I see. So
Okay,
the gold layer is where, yeah.
That is what your gold layer. Second would be you want to create a trend for every user, and then there can be another column as well. So I'm just doing at user level. They would like to understand loyalty as well. They would like to understand at a category level as well, let's say. Then you will have to do multiple joins and then create a view out of it. So in short, you need to give them a table where they can just query and visualize whatever they want.
So in that case, you have to create another table in the silver layer?
Silver layer, no, you can create a view in gold layer. On top, see, this table, this satisfies three requirements. Recent customer lifetime value, the trend of the lifetime value of a per customer, and it gives the recency, frequency, monetary as well. You can create three different dashboards using one table, correct?
Yeah, but where we get the loyalty from?
Loyalty is available in source,
so you
which
have
we
to
don't have here. You're right.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Correct? Can we bring it here? Yes, we can. And then we can reuse it.
Oh, I see. So you gotta add a column. Okay.
Yep. So rather than creating another table, that's what. Does it make sense? Rather than adding a table, adding a column. Because your loyalty again can maybe change throughout multiple days, right? So you can see that trend as well. That after how many days Vinay was loyal. Let's say if this was false. He then bought a loyalty card after a few months. So you can see that trend as well. How many months does it take to be loyal for a customer?
And then so the gold layer would have like all the views and basically the queries for the reporting.
Yes.
Okay. Or else, Ninad, we can figure it out on how much he is spending, like that, a spending check, like $5,000 or something a month or
that
so.
can be business logic, correct.
That way we don't have to get the data from the raw layer, right? We can immediately do that in gold also. So
You can, yes, you can, agreed. Just that if you need to bring something from bronze, then better to add it in silver. You're right.
Yeah.
If you can do it from this customer lifetime value, then yes. But if business wants to understand something else apart from the cost for loyalty, there might be loyalty cards as well, right?
Yeah.
If there is no business logic, there is simple business. They have a loyalty card. They give you loyalty card. Then you don't have to do all the transformation. You just get it from bronze.
Okay.
Again, depends on business. There's a question to business whether is loyalty we need to calculate or I'm getting it from source. In this case, we're getting it from source itself.
Yeah.
Is loyalty.
And one small thing, Ninad, in the diagram, system design diagram, you said like in the classes, one of the classes you said like we need to use the securities and all that. So we need to connect each and
Yes,
every
I wanted to
system to
cover that.
AWS CloudWatch and at the same time, so something like that. So is
Yep.
it necessary for everything, even though it's small also,
Yes.
like very cost efficient also?
Yes, do that. Why do that? It's been asked in every interview.
Okay.
And
So
that is the
AWS
way to
CloudWatch
do it
and then
actually.
SQS and SNS also, right? Because we need to trigger
Not
something.
SQS really. So DMS can you will have a CloudWatch log. From CloudWatch log, you can just create a SNS to notify you for the failures. And anyway, you're writing to Snowflake, so there is no KMS encryption here.
There is
You're
no
not writing
KMS
to S3,
encryption,
right?
right? Like security manager.
Sorry?
Like there is no KMS encryption here. That what you are saying, I didn't get it. Like what was that?
Yes, you don't need encryption here because DMS encrypts the data and directly writes it to Snowflake. So there is no middle layer here now.
Okay, got it.
But there can be one problem. What happens if there is a failure in DMS? Right? So that's another thing to discuss. But yeah,
But we are getting notification in SNS, right? So through CloudWatch, we connected SNS and we are getting notification in email. So
what about
we can
reprocessing? It failed. Now how do you reprocess it? You don't have a code here, right? Again, pros and cons everywhere. You don't have code where you can manually write and get the data now.
Okay.
DMS is just copy paste. So let's say your 10 rows failed. How are you gonna just copy the 10 rows from source to target?
So we have a timestamp in the log files. Then does it automatically go to a log files and read those like a timestamp, then copy those files? Is it possible?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm asking. Okay.
Yes, it's possible. Yep, that can be done. Exactly, that's how it is done.
Okay.
So for every row, you need to get the timestamp. You can give a range. Let's say if the 10 rows failed between 9:15 a.m. to 9:16 a.m. in 1 minute, you can give that timestamp and then ingest it. But it's going to be a manual process, not an automated one. I haven't explained it here because we had less time. But yes, that's right, Azad. That's how you do it.
So Nina, one more question. Suppose like a 10 couple of like cases are missed, then we want to like manually put in our database, and how we because AWS is a plug and play, does it like sort the data? It's for like we have also do some sorting ourselves. Like
what do you mean by sorting? Sorry.
Sorting is like suppose like some timestamp are missing, like from 10 to 11. Then we have a timestamp from 11 to 5. So after a couple of days, we see that those are missing, and we want to add in our database like AWS. So how we sort those them? Because when we do analysis, we need those timestamp.
So the best way to do is take the whole day's data and deduplicate in Snowflake in a silver layer rather than doing it in DMS.
Is this called the Medallion infrastructure?
Medallion is, you can call yes, but it's on top of Delta Lake, to be very honest. It's on top of Delta Lake like S3 or ADLS in Databricks. But it's a concept. Medallion architecture is a concept of bronze, silver, gold. It can be named as raw. And so my main point of explaining you bronze, silver, gold, you need to do transformation in silver. That is the reason I explain silver. This is not really a Medallion architecture because Snowflake doesn't have Medallion architecture. It's on Delta Lake.
So
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Yeah, so Medallion architecture is a concept, what I explained you, but Medallion architecture is mostly used on Databricks or S3 where you can install Delta Lake. But this is the
Oh,
concept, yes. We use the
but
concept of Medallion architecture.
okay, but this is not a true Medallion architecture, what you
No.
just drew. Okay.
Yes.
Because you
We
put
just
data
use
like
the
Hey, Nina, this is Xavier. I just joined like a little late. So, what you're explaining is the bronze, silver, and gold. Is it similar to a traditional data warehouse concept where the bronze is where the raw data and silver is where we do
Exactly,
all
yes.
the aggregations and gold is where we get the logic presentation layer views? Mostly we create views. Okay. Okay.
Yep. So
And it's a
exactly,
similar.
in older terms, we called it, I think, raw staging data warehouse, raw data warehouse,
Right,
data
right, right,
maps
right.
kind of things. Same
And
thing.
all the SCD 1, 2 will be in the middle layer. In the
Exactly. Yep,
in
exactly.
right. Okay, okay.
And Ninath, quick question on Snowflake. So when we are using the S3 to Snowflake, that's when we use the storage integration stage and
Correct.
everything, right? In case of moving from DMS directly to the Snowflake, is there anything like a stage or anything in that?
So you don't need, if you go to DMS here, you don't need all those things because DMS is writing now.
So it directly, you just have to create a table in your Snowflake and it directly writes it there.
Yep, it can do that. Yes.
I see. Okay.
Cool.
And yeah, this should be. Thanks.
Okay. I think we are way over time, guys. Sorry for that. I hope it enjoyed the session. I can join more sessions or we can continue the other sessions as well as Madan Kareem would be doing.